Hey, we're having some kind of fun today at Swanie's Pub on Cormorant. It's a Swanie Summit, we're calling it. Minnesota, extraordinarily important. You win Minnesota for Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, and you've got a Ronald Reagan-like landslide. So we're going to take the temperature of Minnesota today and talk a little bit about how they feel about this race. Looking forward to that. We're going to chat with Jim Joy. He's a state representative running for re-election in Minnesota. And we'll talk with him a little bit about this race and about the state legislature. So looking forward to that. We're going to meet some folks concerned about what has been proposed in the previous Minnesota legislative session. It's basically a land grab is what it is. It is mirrored or masked, I guess, in this idea that we need to give 155,000 acres of state forest land to the White Earth Reservation, 87,000 acres in Red Lake. And so want to give you an update on that. We've talked about this before. It came up in the last legislative session. It was a proposal in the Senate. It died. It didn't happen. But it's not going away. So we'll give you an update on that. But land grab that you need to know about that is happening in Minnesota. And then also some patriots are operating a Trump store in Lake Park, Minnesota. Some of those good folks are here with us today as well. And Swanie's is serving up a great little brunch option this morning. You can go with a made-to-order omelet with mini waffles. I know this will get your attention, Kev.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be joining us.
You had me at waffles.
There's mini waffles with eggs and choice of bacon or sausage length. There's pancakes with eggs and choice of bacon or sausage. There's biscuits and sausage gravy. You can add an egg done your way. There's eggs toast in your choice of bacon or sausage length. All of those are $15 each, your choice. 5 options to choose from. Add a coffee for $1 and juice and milk. The Holiday Inn Detroit Lakes is catering today. So we've already got some folks here. Invite more to join us at Swanie's. And right here, I have a little fun at Swanie's Pub. Right there in Middle Cormorant Lake. So what better way to spend a Wednesday morning, folks? For a little Swanie Summit, Talk Radio Town Hall, talking to some folks. Looking forward to that today on the program we call What's on Your Mind. How about Donald Trump? They want to lock him up. And when we say they, you know, obviously there's crazy people on the left, and they want to lock him up. But now the president of the United States, Joe Biden, is saying we got to lock him up, folks. Kev.
Yeah.
Is he saying the quiet part out loud again?
I'm surprised. Well, you can't see the teleprompter, but I'm surprised he went as long without, I don't know what. No, I'm not surprised. Are you surprised?
Yeah, he wasn't on the teleprompter, I don't think. He was wandering off. He might have started on the teleprompter, but then he started wandering around this room.
It was tough.
Now, here's my question. I don't think that helps Kamala Harris. I don't think anybody in the Harris campaign is watching this going, oh, no.
Right.
Joe, get him back in the bunker. We can't have him out there saying this crazy stuff. We do want to lock him up, but we just can't talk about that until after Election Day. I don't politically.
Like Mr. Haverkamp is wandering into the rough. Come on, Grandpa. We got over here. We got to go.
Yeah. So listen to this. Listen to what he said.
Yeah, this is rich. Wrong.
What?
Yeah, what?
Politically
lock him up, yeah.
Yeah, he got that in after he realized he stepped in it there. He said, you'd want to lock me up if I said this stuff, but we got to lock him up. And,
Says the guy who took millions of dollars from Ukraine and Romania and China, whose family all got rich because of his position. Says that guy.
So we've got to unpack this. I mean, first of all, he goes from wanting to eliminate the Department of Education.
Yeah.
I mean, as if that would be some great national disgrace.
Exactly, bro. Bingo.
School boards govern school districts. Let states govern schools. Let the local folks deal with education. Federal government should have nothing to do with it. It's ridiculous. And then he jumps from that to he wants to shoot or kill anyone because of some immunity ruling. There's a lot here, but I want to unpack it as we go throughout the program today. So we'll tackle that. That's the latest. Governor Burgum was back on Fox this morning making the case for Donald Trump in the blue wall states. On with Brian Kilmeade. We'll talk about that. He also did an interview Donald Trump did with Mark Levin. We have excerpts of that, too, for you today. We are inside of 2 weeks to Election Day, folks, so lots to cover. And today we're talking Minnesota with some good folks out at Swanie's pub for the Swanie Summit, so stay tuned for all that and more. Straight ahead on What's on Your Mind. When we come back, we're going to talk with Jim Joy. He's the candidate for re-election in the Minnesota House. You want him there. You want him on that wall. We'll talk about it. Coming up on the program we call What's on Your Mind. Don't touch that dial. We're starting the morning lakeside. I love it. Folks are already showing up, and they've got a full day planned here at Swanie's Pub, so come on out. Brunch is on. We're in Middle Cormorant doing the Swanie Summit today at Swanie's Pub, and we're going to focus on Minnesota and some things that are happening in this all-important state for a lot of reasons. Some things happening at the legislature, some concerns over a proposal in the legislature to take Minnesota forest lands and say, here you go, tribes, which would disrupt a lot of longstanding landowner, you got families that have had land for forever that would be impacted. So we're going to tell you about that. We're going to catch up with Jim Joy. He's running for re-election, Minnesota 4B, state representative. Brought to you today by our friends at Thor Building, by the way, the post-frame construction experts for agriculture and commercial. You can count on the team at Thor Buildings to guide you through all the pricing, the planning, the construction for your building from start to finish. Farmers and ranchers don't settle for anything less than the best. Build better, build stronger, build to last with Thor Buildings. Online at thorbuildings.com, thorbuildings.com. Jim Joy joins us today on the program, running for re-election in Minnesota 4B for state representative. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Great, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you. It's fun to be out here on Lakes Country today, and a lot of energy, a lot of excited people. Less than 2 weeks till election. You feeling that on the campaign trail?
Absolutely. It's kind of nice. Like you said, we're out in the Lakes Country today, so it's doing a studio thing out in remote like this is great. It's feeling good. We're getting done the last 2 weeks, and lots going on, and it's been busy.
4B, describe your turf. What is your district?
So everything I have is Detroit Lakes, and then you go west all the way up around Moorhead. I have 15th Street in Moorhead, and Dilworth, Hawley, Lake Park, Audubon, hit it all. It's Clay County except for Ulen and Felton, and then not the direct city of Moorhead is 4A. So, Sabin.
How long you been in the legislature?
This would be my second term. I was a mayor, for 6 years in Hawley, 2 years on the council, and my first term just is now up and running for re-election for my second term. So.
And last time I checked, we need some Republicans in Minnesota to right-size the ship there. Things went pretty crazy your first term, didn't they?
It did. It was more than what I expected. It was overwhelming. I mean, you saw a lot of things happen in the legislature. And, I tell everybody the three keys out of the legislature that happened the last 2 years is they spent $18.5 billion, raised taxes another $10 billion, and grew government by 40%. That's not acceptable to me at all.
Wrap your mind around that.
You run those numbers like I tell everybody. I go and I always say, I can say it slower, $18.5 billion spent, raised taxes when you had an $18.5 billion surplus. No matter how the surplus was there, it was a surplus. Raised taxes by $10 billion on people, and then grew government by 40%. We can't do that.
And then add to that, guys, all the fraud under the daycare scam and the feeding people into this and the frontline worker scams and the George Floyd stuff. I mean, it's great, tens of billions of dollars.
Well, you jump more and more into the fraud, and I run a business. People run businesses. We have checks and balances. I've been in retail my whole life, and we got checks and balances. What's going on? I mean, why the government needs more checks and balances? We cannot have that kind of fraud and not kind of the shoulder shrug. We're not holding accountable. We're not getting answers.
The shoulder shrug is what bugs me.
Oh, exactly.
It doesn't seem like this has gotten anywhere near the scrutiny it should. It's just like a massive cover-up by the Walz administration and the Democratic majorities, isn't it?
A lot of people. I mean, you ask people today, I've talked to people on the trail. Have you heard about the fraud? What fraud? They don't even know about it. It's like, this is your money. Keep in mind, the government doesn't raise money. We're not a business. It is taxpayers' money, and we need to be accountable for that. And if there's fraud going on, we need to hold people accountable. That's what you do in private. That's what you do in all businesses. We have checks and balances.
What is your top concern? What do you hear most from folks about what they're worried about and what they want you to do this next session?
What I'm hearing right now, rural Minnesota, of course, one of the things that rural Minnesota, we all love to live in our rural communities, love to live on our farms they retired on, whatever they got. Rural Minnesota today, I feel we should have the same services. If you call 911, you should have the services once you call the dispatcher to have an officer show up, to have EMS show up, to have firefighters show up, show all that. And that's something we need to prioritize on how we're going to continue to fund that for rural Minnesota. Because, we can't have an accident happen in 45 minutes till you get an ambulance. We need to have coverage in rural Minnesota, not just metro, but rural Minnesota. And that's one of the things I really want to take care of. is make sure rural voices are heard. And that's, last year they tried to put an EMS bill to fund some rural ambulances, but it was create another agency, growing government again.
Come on.
And I've been attacked saying I didn't vote for that bill. My problem with that bill is we can't grow more government. We can't create a new agency.
You don't need another agency to continue to fund the services you already have, do you?
Absolutely. No, we don't. And, I feel when you pay 911 fees on your cell phone bill, on your phone bill, you pay it monthly. And a lot of people don't know it's even there because it's like 84 cents on your bill. I think that is something we need to look into as a legislator and start digging into how much money is there. And I hear it's about $66 million, and how we can fund all these agencies and have that fund instead of having to go back to the legislator every 2 years and figure out how we're going to keep EMS in rural Minnesota. How are we going to make sure we have these coverages? People deserve that coverage, and that's something we need to make sure we focus on. The other thing that we need to tackle is taxes. $10 billion increase in taxes. That we got to quit this taxing. People cannot retire in their homes today and stay there with the taxes going up the way they are. I mean, the economy's hurting. No matter how you look at it, you can say it's growing. How they want to drive us in the newspaper and tell us how it's growing, it's struggling. I talked to people at the doors today, and they are struggling. And that's not right. We need to fix that. We need, again, slow down growing government. We need to really slow that down and start shrinking it and looking at getting back to the legislator having the power and giving it to we the people.
Are people in tune to the fact of how the majority, you had Walz's administration combined with the Democratic House and Senate, was literally abused? I mean, and the things they did. You're talking about fiscally. You're talking about essential services. I would also argue some of the insane things they did with telling schools here they need to put tampons in elementary boys' school bathrooms.
You talk to schools. In Clay County, we met with the superintendents, and we talked about their budgets and what's going on. And 64 new mandates to schools. They said they can get by this year, but with the new mandates, they're going in deficits. So the state government put them in deficits. We could change it by releasing mandates. Local control is good. Local control is really good. And I was a mayor, and so I'm probably biased to that. But let these people decide. Send them the money, and they'll decide what they need to do in the school. There might be schools that have a 78% free and reduced lunch, and they need the free lunches for all. But there's also schools out there that only had a 5% free and reduced lunch. We need to smarter government, not just giving a blanket out of Metro what is good for all of Minnesota. It's not.
Tell me more about the school lunch thing.
So free lunches for all. So they passed free lunches for all schools. So now, like, my kids' lunches are free. You know what? I can pay for my kids' lunches. If the schools were struggling with this, I didn't hear this on the campaign trail my first 2 years.
Well, Tim Walz wanted to just basically use it as a campaign tool, right? He talks about it all the time in the vice presidential race now as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're saying whether you needed it or not, this wasn't about need. This was about free lunch for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
who pays for that?
That's taxpayers. And that's my thing is everything, because I don't know, some people I think believe the government makes money, but they don't. They do not make money. It comes from taxpayers. And you talk about with my district, we're close to North Dakota, and there's a much difference. Minnesota is now the highest corporate income tax in the United States. I don't think we should be proud of that, no matter where we stand. That is how we are going to lose businesses across that river. We need to start reining that in.
What are you hearing statewide? I mean, is there a lot of pushback on, again, what the Democratic majorities did, what Walz did? Do people want to check on that?
People want a balanced government. I mean, I've heard that on campaign trail. We need a balanced government. We cannot let this happen. We need repealers. You look at the paid family leave on the businesses. Paid family leave, and again, I'll repeat it. I've been in business. I've talked to many business community members.
According to Tim Walz, you and other business owners wanted that. That's why they did that.
100%. And I was at a business meeting in Moorhead with 61 business leaders that did not want this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's we don't get that out in the media, but we will today.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, how do you take a program and create a new program that's going to be a percentage given to the employee and employer to create this program for up to 12 weeks off? Understand that. You want to take care of people. But now we're going to add 400 new employees to this agency to run one program. That's how irresponsible the government in this program is.
So you get a Republican majority, you put a check on that?
We need to repeal that. We need to bring that back. I mean, there's AFLAC, there's private insurers you can go and get and have short-term, long-term disability. I did not understand as a retailer myself that the government's going to come and tell me I've been running my business wrong. We all today are trying to find workers for our businesses, and we take care of our people. But I guess the government wants to come and tell us how to do it right.
Unbelievable. About a minute left. What's your closing argument here? These less than 2 weeks to the voters of 4B in Minnesota.
Accountability really comes down to accountability. We had a lot of things this year. You saw taxes again. I'll repeat it: $18.5 billion surplus, $10 billion tax increase, and grew government 40%. We cannot continue that way. We need to start shrinking. We need to be more accountable for this tax money. We can't less fraud. We need to have checks and balances. I hope we can get there, and I pray every day that we can get there.
Well, good luck. We need you there, tackling the common sense issues and defending rural Minnesota, and hopefully you got a few more Republican colleagues from around the state that can tip the balance back the other way and put a check on this craziness.
Absolutely, Scott. And again, like I said, I appreciate you having me on the show today, and
glad to have you on, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Jim Joy's on that ballot, ladies and gentlemen. You want him back there in Minnesota's District 4B. Get out there and vote, Minnesota. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Back from Swanie's Pub, the Swanie Summit on Middle Cormorant today. Come on out for brunch. We're having a grand time. Stay tuned for more coming up. We are live and on location today at Swanie's Pub out on Middle Cormorant Lake, coming to you from Lakes Country for the Swanie Summit today on What's on Your Mind. Great to be out in Lakes Country in Minnesota, countdown to the election. By the way, they have a wonderful brunch menu here with made-to-order omelets with mini waffles, eggs, a choice of bacon or sausage links. They got pancakes if you want to go pancakes instead of the waffles. They got biscuits and sausage gravy. Eggs, toast, you name it, sausage link, whatever you want. $15 for brunch today at Swanie's, and coffee, juice, milk, lots of goodies. The good folks from Holiday Inn Detroit Lakes actually are catering the event here out at Swanie's today, and a nice crowd on hand already. We're going to be here for the Swanie Summit today, talking a little bit about some issues important to Minnesota during this upcoming election. Minnesota's important to, I tell you what, there are some reports right now that there's a new tier of states that are being focused on, and Minnesota is one of them, along with states like Virginia and a few others that were thought to be either, they're gone, they're not going to happen. Maine is another one. In fact, Tim Walz's wife, Gwen, Kev, was being dispatched, supposed to be speaking today in Maine for the Harris campaign. They canceled the event. They didn't say why. And then there was a leak out of the campaign that she is so bat-wano crazy that she is turning off male voters. And they're seeing some pushback with male voters because of Gwen Walz. So they basically said, hey, can you tone it down a little bit? And evidently she said, fine, I won't go.
Yeah.
So canceling. Yeah. So, but Minnesota's one of those states where, if Minnesota's in play, if we're talking about Minnesota, being a strong possibility for Trump on election night, less than 2 weeks away, it's game over. It's definitely game over. And there are a number of reports and tightening polls that suggest that. So that's one of many reasons why we're in Minnesota today, just to talk to Minnesota voters a little bit about this election and have some fun. There's folks here from the Trump store. They have a Trump store in Lake Park, Minnesota, right along Highway 10. And a bunch of volunteers that are making that shop go are here today. We're going to catch up with a few of them. We're going to talk about a proposal that was in the last legislative session that is not going away, and it essentially is an effort that says only in Minnesota would they go, we have state forest lands, 2 state forests. Why don't we give those away? 155,000 acres in White Earth, and 87,000 acres in the Red Lake reservations, where they would take Minnesota state forests and say, here, we're going to give them to the tribe. And that disrupts, of course, a whole bunch of there's concerns where there's agriculture activity. There's concerns where there's, access to cabins and on lakes. It's a whole sticky wicket. And it was in the state Senate last time, didn't go anywhere, but is being brought back. So we're going to talk with some folks very concerned about that as well in Minnesota today. So a little bit of that and more on the program we have coming up. Nothing would surprise us, would it, Kev?
No, I think it's, it's veiled reparations in a way. Those lands were taken, giving them back. Some, and I know that the last time we went around with this, when Josh Duhamel was on with us, as a matter of fact, because he could be affected by it. It wasn't so much that he had the big problem with it. Again, it's how they do these things, and they're in the middle of the night or behind closed doors, or and we want to just make sure. And I think the thing at Swanie's today is a good example. Just let's get that, like Mr. Joyce said, you got to get this out. You got to be accountable. You got to get this out in the open. Let the people decide how you're going to spend their money, what we're going to do. That's that's the state's. That's our land. That's the state's property. They're just going to do this. There's exactly. A lot, but like you said, there's a lot of arms and legs on this one.
There is. So we're going to dig into that today. Make sure you know everything you need to know there, and we keep our eyes on that. When they start talking about locking Donald Trump up, and I should quantify this, they've been saying that, and when I say they, basically the hard left has wanted to lock Donald Trump up for a long time, right? And the federal government has been weaponized against him. We know all that. None of it's a surprise. But less than 2 weeks till an election, when the current president of the United States says we need to lock him up, I think we need to pay attention, right? I think this is this is where you go, whoa, back the truck up here. What is going on? First of all, I think it's a sign that Trump is winning, and they're very concerned because their rhetoric has been ramped up to a new notch. Joe Biden, at an event yesterday for the Harris campaign, actually said, "We've got to lock him up, folks." Okay, so we want to share that with you as well. All that on the program today, and we'll break that down. Kevin and I will. It's some kind of crazy, I'm telling you.
Yeah, a little bit, but still not bad. I mean, for this time of the year, last year, tomorrow, we had our first snow of the season. So at least we're not talking about our first snow of the season yet compared to last year. But we're talking about increasing sunshine. We've got sunshine moving in from the west, and we'll all get in on that by the afternoon, a little later in Lakes Country as that clearing line moves from west to east. But we should all have sunshine later this afternoon with highs in the 50s in the northern and eastern third of the state, low 60s out in the southwestern and central part of the state with winds out of the west-southwest about 10 to 20. For Thursday, partly to mostly cloudy, more sunshine the further north you go, and more clouds from 94 corridor south, and a chance for a few light showers along and south of 94, but a better chance for rain tomorrow out in Lakes Country, which is good news. We all need the rain. Highs tomorrow in the 50s, and then sunny skies and more seasonal weather on Friday with highs statewide in the 50s. I really don't see a change to this above normal weather pattern until the end of the month and the start of November. It does look like we'll start to turn colder and maybe mix in a few more precipitation events as well. We need rain. Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, the whole area needs rain. And it looks like our chances will start to get a little better on that as we head towards the end of the month and to start off November. So that's somewhat good news. Hopefully a couple of these storms are big ones. I know you don't want to hear that, but we need the moisture.
I heard Daryl Richardson say, the state climatologist in North Dakota, that statistically speaking, this will be the nicest fall of our lifetime.
October, September was record-setting. So far, October has been record-setting as the warmest on record. So I'd say outside of, the lack of moisture, temperature-wise, it absolutely has been, without a doubt.
Wow. So take that one to the bank.
Right.
No complaining. I've just a little whiplashed, and I went from 78 to freezing my rear off yesterday afternoon.
Yeah. Welcome. You know the deal. You know the drill.
But I'm not going to complain anymore. Dino, thanks a bunch. Dean Wysocki, our chief meteorologist, with the weather scene there on What's on Your Mind. So listen to Joe Biden, then let's break this down. Just go ahead and roll this, Kev, and I want to make sure people, if they haven't heard it, hear it in its entirety. It's a little bit rambling because he goes from one concern over the Department of Education shutting down to saying that Trump is going to be literally like shooting people, right? So it seems to be a wide range of concern there. Yeah, the education department's going to go and he's going to be shooting and killing people that disagree with him. What in the world? Listen to this and let's talk about it.
Yay.
Him up is nothing new, obviously, but we're less than 2 weeks to an election. That's the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, saying we got to lock him up.
Politically.
He clearly did it.
Oh, better add that in there.
Yeah, after the crowd went crazy loving it, he clearly decided, wait a minute here. I better clean up in aisle 5 and say politically. But what's your reaction to that? I want to know. 701-271-1100. And for the love of God, what is he talking about that the immunity ruling would allow him to shoot, kill someone who's a threat to him? Now, first of all, when we talk about someone who's a threat to him, obviously the Secret Service has dealt with threats to him and shot and killed them. I would hope so. But is he talking politically? What in the world is he talking about? 271-1100. Tell me what you heard. President Trump talking a little bit about what he's up against every single day and tied it into the media, and I would agree. When the sitting president of the United States says we need to lock up Donald Trump less than 2 weeks before an election, that's a news story. And again, I've heard it nowhere. I didn't even hear it on Fox News this morning. I mean, you got to find this, on Twitter, for crying out loud, that he's saying this at some event yesterday. It's unbelievable. Brought to you today by our friends at Schmidt's Gems and Fine Jewelry, by the way, the hardware store for women, locally owned with in-house custom goldsmiths. Schmidt's Gems and Fine Jewelry, 42nd Street and 32nd Avenue South in Fargo. We're at Swanie's Pub today for the Swanie Summit. Came to Minnesota to talk about the election and what's happening out here. And Swanie's Pub is throwing a great party here, the Swanie Summit, and the Swanie's Pub Brunch being served right now. They have made-to-order omelets with mini waffles. You can do mini waffles with eggs and choice of bacon or sausage links. You could do pancakes instead with eggs and bacon or sausage. You could do biscuits and sausage gravy. You could do eggs toast and choice of bacon or sausage link. Holiday Inn Detroit Lakes catering this out at Swanie's Pub today, right on Middle Cormorant. So come on out and join the fun. Sounds, I know I got Kevin hungry, for sure.
Always. Even between that and the PetroServes deal, always hungry.
So is this a big deal, or am I making a big deal out of nothing? That Joe Biden says lock him up 2 weeks till the election, and the media is ignoring it.
Big deal out of nothing. Who cares what Joe Biden says? No one's cared what Joe Biden says since 2020. Really.
But
so,
Kevin, he's the president.
I know, man. I get it.
Of the United States.
And then so many times he said things, and who knows what he said. So I don't know. To me, I could care less what he says. He's a liar. He's a criminal as far as I'm concerned. So, that's me. And what do you think? 701-271-1100. Let's go.
All right. And first of all, the first item that he lists to suggest that he ought to be locked up is that he wants to eliminate the Department of Education. By the way, I don't know that I've ever heard Trump talk about this in detail. I think it's come up in a couple of interviews where he says, look, education should be governed at the local level. I mean, that's not controversial.
Bring back the PTA.
That's not crazy.
Yes.
That was first on the list. And then he goes to this immunity ruling by the Supreme Court, which would, and I quote, allow him to shoot, kill someone who is a threat to him. Anyone, literally. Immunity means he could go just shoot anybody. Now, first of all, what this is an interpretation by a lot of really crazy people on what the Supreme Court immunity ruling meant, number one. So it's their interpretation. It isn't Trump saying, hey, I can go shoot and kill anybody I want. Again, the rhetoric's not new. They clearly want to do this, but when they say it out loud 2 weeks before an election, I think you pay attention.
The fear tactics are just ridiculous, too. Anyway, sorry.
Joe and Crookston, you're next on What's on Your Mind. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, it's good. It's good versus evil. What it is, when people are evil, even Trump said it, they're out of control, and they are out of control. They are saying stuff that is just completely out of this world, and just by their actions. And you got Obama out there, you got Biden out there, you got all these guys bringing Trump down. They've had him arrested on how many charges and felonies and everything else. They don't want him in there for a reason, because the Democrat Party is way out of whack. They're for transgenders in women's sports, killing infants after they're born. I mean, the stuff is just insane. The border's wide open. People know this. They're going to Trump, and the Democrat Party can see it. So now they're pulling out all stops. You got Biden saying this kind of stuff. You got John Kelly saying stuff. They are gasping for air, and the good always wins over evil. But the problem with being evil, you get out of hand. You can't control it, and this is what you see right now. They can't control their message, and it's way out of control. That's my thought on it, and Trump will win this election.
They are partying in Sodom.
So in other words, and by the way, Joe, you nailed it. It is out of control, and I think we're getting numb to it. Like Kevin's like, I don't care what Joe Biden says. I think Joe Biden is long past his prime. There's no doubt about it. But he's the president of the United States campaigning for Kamala Harris, saying lock up Donald Trump. Now, all I would ask is if Donald Trump said today, lock up Kamala Harris right now, lock her up. That this would be on the front page of every newspaper.
You're right.
It would be every newscast. It would be the top of the hour everywhere. And this is like a yawn. I think it's ridiculous.
That's true. Yeah.
And I
You
also
both make good points. Yeah, go ahead. Kevin is right on what he said, and you just made a good point. It's when a good person says something wrong, then they jump on them. You see, a bad person can say something wrong all the time, and it's no big deal. And just like what Biden did, it's no big deal because everybody knows who he is, and it's just like it's water under the bridge. I mean, they are gasping for air, and I can't wait till the election and Trump's the president again. He's going to clean it up. I got to go. I got to load up with some asphalt. See you guys later.
Attaboy.
You go load some asphalt up there, by golly. Crystal, who's right? Is Joe right that this is out of control rhetoric and we got to call it out, or is Kev right to say it's Biden? Who cares?
I think it is out of control. And Harris was just recently interviewed about asking if she had any awareness of the mental facilities of Biden, not working so well, and then referred to the June debate. And Camilla just passes out, oh, well, anybody can have a bad debate. Well, anybody who watched that debate, and we were there with the huffing and puffing and no words coming out of Biden because he got everything all mixed up and he couldn't stand his ground. And all he did was stand there by Trump with his mouth hanging open because he couldn't think. So if that's just having a bad debate, and then the reporter also said, well, that's kind of why you are on the ballot now and Biden's not. And Harris was just stymied.
She got a little huffy. She got a little huffy over that question.
Yeah, a little up.
She did.
She got a little hot.
She's not fit.
Yeah.
Yep. Amen.
Thanks, Crystal. Appreciate
Thanks,
the call very much. This is What's on Your Mind. We're live at Swanie's Pub on Middle Cormorant out of Lakes Country, Minnesota today for the Swanie Summit. We're going to meet some of the folks that are here with us when we come back. Welcome more of your calls, too, as we go throughout the program today on What's on Your Mind. Don't go away. What's on your mind? Brought to you by PetroServe USA. Home cooking and grab-and-go convenience today, like Swedish meatballs. Harwood location, West Main Avenue, West Fargo, has Swedish meatballs along with cheesy beef potatoes, country fried steak, 12 to 9.29 in Wahpeton today. Chicken pot pie in Glendon. Chicken and gravy, both at the 45th Fargo location and Ada. Sloppy Joe's in Hewlin. What else we have for you? How about some Sloppy Joe's at Valley City today?
Ooh,
as well. Yeah. So there you go. Home cooking, grab and go convenience, PetroServe USA. If that made you hungry and you're up by Middle Cormorant, join us at Swanie's Pub at the Swanie Summit going today, and they're serving up wonderful brunch. The folks from the Holiday Inn Detroit Lakes are bringing in the made-to-order omelets and waffles and pancakes, biscuits and sausage gravy, eggs, toast, bacon, sausage, you name it, only $15 today. So come join the fun. We're out at Swanie's Pub on Middle Cormorant today because it is a chance to find out about what's happening in Minnesota. That's why we're here today. And a couple of guests going to join us to talk about something that has been in the news previously that we've talked about on the show. It was a part of the last legislative session, but we thought had been resolved, and it hasn't been resolved, and a concern for landowners out here that we want to talk about. We're joined by Todd Simonson. Todd, nice to see you.
Good morning, Scott.
Give us a little plug for your great business.
TS Dock and Lift. Yeah.
Business owner.
This is kind of our territory down here at the lakes.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Most folks down there, there's a few people holding out there for the last little bit of.
There's a few, but not much left in the water anymore.
Yeah.
With the weather looking to be turning it out of the water.
Exactly right. Greg Scherzer is here as well. Greg, how are you?
Good, good.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a landscaper. Lasting Landscape is my company. We're out of Detroit Lakes, and I live in Clearwater County, and I'm running for county commissioner.
Well, good for you.
Clearwater County.
Clearwater. I call it a land grab. Essentially, somebody invented this idea that we're going to take state forest land and we're going to give it to somebody. Some even question whether they're asking for it. The ramifications of that for generations will be incredible. Thought it was a victory because it went nowhere in the last session, but sounds like this is bubbling up again. Give me the latest.
Oh, it for sure is. On September 5th, Mary Kunis states that she'd like to focus on educating people on the land back. That was kind of all over the internet on September the 5th. September the 30th, agencies led by Waltz say that they're working on land back issues as well.
Land back. What are they getting at
Give
there?
it back, yeah.
Is this a reparations thing?
Give it back. That 155,000 acres that you're talking about, we'd no longer be able to tax any of those acres. Wouldn't bring in the taxes from them any longer. There's a lot of other things that we'd lose as well.
So we're talking about 155,000 acres just in which area?
So that's in Becker County, Monoman County, and Clearwater County. Roughly 50,000 acres in all three counties.
All right, and that would go to the White Earth Reservation.
Correct.
Right.
So Scott, think about this. That's 2.5 times the size of Minneapolis, St. Paul. So that. Yeah.
And what is
You think of all these people on Bad Medicine Lake, and the easements going to their properties go through the state forest. You think of Josh Duhamel and where he lives. He has his place as well. So if those easements go over to the tribe and they're in control of those easements, there's a big question if those easements could move on. You look at Wisconsin where the same thing happened. The tribe shut down the easements. The people either had to pay big money to get to their cabins or they can't get there at all. And that could happen here as well.
It's just mind-boggling, the amount of impact that it would have.
It really is. And the amount of property taxes that we would be living without. There's a lot of dollars just even in Clearwater County that come in through property taxes.
Somebody done the math for Clearwater County, Greg?
The math is done, but I right offhand, I don't. I know we would lose several $100,000 of PILT money, which is payment in lieu of taxes. We would lose, all of the, and that comes from state land, and then we would lose tax forfeit money from the any logging, any of that type of stuff that's done on tax forfeit land goes back to the townships and the county. So we would lose all of those dollars. And then if they took if they put it into tribal trust, which they would, then at that point it belongs to the U.S. government. And of course we get no money from that. There's no tax money. There's none of that comes to our county, our townships, all of those things. So realistically, in my district, it would affect 7 townships, and those 7 townships would lose all of their revenue. Realistically, I think it would hurt Clearwater County terribly.
And nobody's saying, okay, if we're gonna give this land back, we obviously are going to impact these counties, these townships. These local taxing subdivisions can take revenue away from roads and bridges and schools and everything else.
Exactly.
So let's replace that. Nobody's saying we recognize the impact here, so we'd at least have that as part of this proposal.
Yeah, no, so the biggest problem with the whole thing is it was done behind closed doors. It was done with 2 weeks' notice. Realistically, that's what we had. And we put together a group. By the way, that's not unusual. That's how they roll in Minnesota.
Right. That's how they ram through a lot of stuff. They had a plan, obviously, to do it, and had everything baked and ram it through. That's kind of
secret plan.
That's kind of how walls in the Democratic majorities have run down there. So
but
this is not a surprise.
But the thing of it was, we'll do it,
and then we'll talk about it later.
And we'll talk about it later. We'll have 3 years to talk about it later. We know how those things go.
It's like how many business deals do you make in your life that you don't talk about it first? Usually you talk about it first and then make your business deal.
We're talking about the state of Minnesota saying here is land that we're just going to give back. Obviously, the ripple effect of that, and whether it be easements or whether it be revenue or generations of families that have accessed their land through those easements, everything, all you're disrupting. It's obviously they know it's going to be controversial. Obviously they know there's going to be pushback. So you got to try and get it done as quick as you can and ram it through. That's probably the only good news here is that they tried last session and didn't get it through, but it doesn't mean they're going to stop now. So
no, they're going to keep going.
It's going to come back around. I mean, there's several of the, Mike, the chief, he's out there putting out that we're going to do it this time. We're going to do it this next session. All of the other representatives there, we're going to do it this time. Well, and we hear from the state also, they're going to try it again. So we got to be very vigilant. We got to be on top of these things.
Well, transparency more than anything, so people know what's going on.
Exactly.
Because it happened quick. Now you've got a little time before a session, obviously, to get people ramped up about it. How are you doing that, Todd? Who are your allies in this?
As far as what?
I mean, have you got people in St. Paul in the legislature saying, "Here's what we're going to do. Here's how what worries me is that you're already outnumbered. Big time, metro versus rural.
I've heard for the past 2 weeks that they've spent about $500,000. The natives in lobbying and getting things together. So that's a lot of money to spend. I think we've got some great people here today. You got Jim Joy, you got Steve Green, Rob Kupek even has really helped us out a lot with this. I guess we just got to keep everybody together so we're voting the same way.
Yeah, Rob Kupek, a Democratic member of the legislature, so he recognizes this is a bad idea. He's fighting it actively.
I think most people recognize this as a bad idea. I don't even think that the Native American community is 100% for this. In fact, I know they're not.
Yeah, we're going to talk to a guest a little later just talking about a lot of the division in the Native American community. It's been a very divisive proposal. Looking forward to hearing more how that has played out here.
It's really created division even amongst households in this area. If you have one member of the house that's Native American, the other one is not, it really creates division in the same household.
Hold tight. We're going to talk more about this as we continue on the program. A couple of guests concerned about this again, and that's why we're in Minnesota today in Lakes Country to learn a little bit about what concerns them. This obviously an issue that came up before the legislature before and is now returning in the next session. So we'll talk a little bit about. And again, this feels to me like a bunch of bleeding heart liberals in the legislature think if they just do this, then they will have made amends for something that happened generations ago. Rather than a solid, serious policy proposal. It feels like feel-good liberalism without any, as usual, recognition of the impacts of that and what you're actually proposing. You're proposing something that would make you feel better, fix nothing, but at the same time disrupt all kinds of funding streams to the local governments in addition to all kinds of things that are happening with private property and everything else. So it doesn't make a lot of sense at all. We'll talk more about it with our guests when we come back on What's on Your Mind, 16 before the top of the hour on the program today, brought to you in part by the North Dakota Petroleum Foundation. 50,000 plus employees, over half the taxes paid. Did you know they touch every corner of the great state of North Dakota? More We're doing a Swanie Summit today. Swanie's Pub on Middle Cormorant Lake. Legislature for a land grab, take Minnesota State Forest and hand it over to White Earth Indian Reservation, as well as Red Lake. Todd Simpson, Greg Scherzer with us. I think what you're going to need is obviously more allies in these impacted areas to have an understanding of what the impacts will be. So they know that this isn't just some sort of, whatever, pay attention to this because the impacts are extraordinary, and you don't have to guess what the impacts will be because Wisconsin's gone through this, right?
Oh, yes, they have.
So you've seen what happens, what if it happens. But tell folks what to expect. What kinds of things could happen if they're successful with this?
Well, there's lots of things that could happen, but the access to property easements, like we just talked about a few minutes ago, that is a definite thing that could happen. Property values up in that neck of the woods could plummet. Snowmobile trails, even if you're from North Dakota, the snowmobile trails that you have access today to may not be there. Four-wheeler and UTV trails. The North Country hiking trail that we spent all that money on building. Public accesses to our lakes, something a lot of people don't think about. The logging rights, the ability to log the state forest. Another big one would be, ambulance service, police protection. Right down to the farmers are losing their water rights to water their fields.
So when you talk about law enforcement impacts, give me an example of how law enforcement would be impacted.
Well, when they're called to a 911 call up in that area, right now they just drive right to it. In the future, they may not be able to do that. It may not be their territory.
Yeah, there are signs. I see one in front of me here as an example that are up now on White Earth land that say no trespassing. The area reserved exclusively for members and licensees of the White Earth Reservation. So pretty clear.
And I know that Sheriff Glander is going to be on the show later on today, and I think he can answer some of those questions a lot better than I can.
Concern from law enforcement about
but he has a lot of concerns. I know that for sure.
Yeah, and I'm looking at headlines from the Wisconsin ordeal. I mean, here's a Fox News story. Wisconsin residents remain trapped in homes as Native American tribe maintains blockade over legal dispute. And you have another one says Lac du Flambeau tribe wants $20 million to unblock roads, and that's from 65 families.
Yeah, that's $300,000 per house that they have to pay to get access to their homes.
And this happened back in 2023 where they literally blocked 4 roads on their reservation in northern Wisconsin, cutting off access to about 65 non-tribal properties. Todd mentioned logging, Greg. Obviously, there's logging in Clearwater County. Talk about the impacts there.
So when we testified at the Senate, there was a gentleman there from the logging industry. He said that there are currently 17 loggers that work in the state forest. Only 2 of those loggers are permitted to work on tribal property. The others are excluded from working because of they're not native. Well, if they close those down, most of those 17 loggers would go out of business. I was just visiting with one on Sunday when out on the campaign trail, and he said that he wouldn't make it 6 months without the state if the proposal had gone through. He said that, he currently has about, I believe he said 14 families that he feeds. That's how many employees he applies or has full time. And he said that it would shut him down. He'd be done. And what are those families going to do? What's it going to do to Clearwater County or even Detroit Lakes when those go, if they shut their doors? So, it's going to affect a lot more than just the local people. It's going to affect businesses. It's going to affect everyone.
Look at what happened last spring to the logging.
Yeah. Well, last spring we had in Becker County, there was a logging,
I don't know if you'd call it
parcel that was shut down by the tribe because there were some maples on that area, and they had a feeling that there could be some archaeology stuff, so they shut it down. Well, that's not the way we should be operating.
No kidding. People need to get involved in this, right? I mean, because it's going to take power in numbers to people to understand, the potential impacts here.
Definitely. We need people to get involved. That's how we're going to convince our people in government that this is a wrong thing to do.
Anything else you want to tell our listeners?
Going back to right from the start, one of the first things that I've always said all the way through is, after all these years, why are we trying to change something? Why are we trying to change this? It seems like we're really trying to create division amongst us is what we're trying to do.
Sure.
Right now, when you go snowmobiling or you go fishing or you go four-wheeling up there, it doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter your religion. Doesn't matter where you're from. You can use that property.
Yeah, and they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about, trying to, in their eyes, right some wrong that happened centuries ago.
I'd like to know where they're going with this, why they really want to change it.
Yeah, that would be a fascinating question to ask some people behind this, but that's, damn the details, they don't care.
No.
That's reparations, boys, reparations.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, gentlemen, thank you for shining a light on this. Appreciate it very much. We'll continue live from Swanie's today. We are live at Swanie's Pub for the Swanie Summit today on What's on Your Mind. Brought our microphones out to Lakes Country, Minnesota, right on Middle Cormorant, where Swanie's is located, and talking to the people about what matters to them. Interesting story out of the state legislature last go-around, and it is a concern this time. We're talking about that as well. And if you want to weigh in on any of these issues, feel free to pick up the phone and join our conversation at 701-271-1100. You can text us, too, at 701-237-1590, 701-237-1590. Donald Trump is here. Not in the flesh and blood, but he actually it's the cardboard version of Donald Trump.
The
Trump
cutout.
And you can take a picture with the president. So that's worth the trip alone, right there. And they're also serving up brunch today. Listen to this: $15 in your choice of. You can go made to order omelet with mini waffles. You can do just the mini waffles with eggs and choice of bacon or sausage. You could do pancakes, couple eggs, bacon or sausage. You could do biscuits and sausage gravy. Add an egg on your way. Eggs, toast, choice of bacon or sausage link. $15 for your great brunch here today if you come on out to Swanie's Pub, again on Middle Cormorant, where the Swanie Summit is on today. So enjoying our conversation out here and learning lots about things that concern folks in Minnesota as we count down to the election. You got a text you want to share, Cal?
I do. A friend of mine in Fergus Falls texted in. He said, at this rate, all the Europeans are going to have to go back to their country of origin. I'll have to go back to Germany. He says, Kev, you'll have to go back to Ireland or Norway. We'll have to give the country back to Britain, France, Portugal, and Spain, and they'll have to give it back to the indigenous peoples of North America. When does this end? I mean, that's kind of a little overshot, but, it's a good point, I think.
Exactly. And again, it's sadly dividing people. That's one of the things, but I kept Greg Scherzer was telling me a story during the break, and I said, you got to tell the story on the air.
I have a friend of mine, I just want 2 cents on this. It's native, and he's very successful. He's of the opinion he wants all reservations shut down. He wants it to go the other way. This is America now. It is what it is. We are where we are. But, no more of any of that. No more, no matter what, we have to earn it, which it just resonates with me more and more. But.
And our next two guests actually are descendants. So they're in the middle of this. Greg, you're a descendant, but you're opposing this. Explain how that works, by the way.
So I'm a descendant. My father is a member. What happens is you're a member. When your blood quantum gets so low, you become a descendant. You get 2 generations after that are descendants. So I'm a descendant. My children are descendants, but my grandchildren will not be descendants. Well, if they close the reservation to non-tribal people, or land,
it doesn't impact you, but it would impact.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't impact me. It doesn't impact my sons, but my grandchildren can't hunt, fish, whatever on those lands. That definitely affects me. I've worked for the last 25 years on the reservation, and I've landscaped a lot of the public buildings and that type of thing. And most of my employees, I've been tribal members or descendants or whatever. So I hire every, natives. I basically work with the tribe because they're good people. But I have several employees right now, former employees, that will not speak to me because of this situation. One of the guys worked for me for 10 plus years. He won't speak to me, and it's dividing us all, and it's wrong. So it needs to change.
Yeah, that's sad.
Right.
What you described there, a proposal that nobody knows where it came from or why it's there or what itch they're trying to scratch or whatever, whether it's to copy Wisconsin or join this movement that's happening around the country or whatever, forgetting the fact that it turns employee against employer and family member against family member and
correct
all the division that comes from it. That's sad.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really sad. Well, appreciate you sharing the story.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, really do. I think that's worth people hearing, no doubt about it. Our next guest is a state senator, and this is where this particular issue was dealt with in the last legislative session. Steve Green is here, and Steve is District 2 senator. What kind of, where's District 2?
District 2 goes from approximately Callaway, the top half of Becker County, up to northwest angle. And then it goes from west edge of Monoman County over to Deer River. So it's a big area.
Yeah, and a lot of those, what's 155,000 acres we're talking about with White Earth, right?
Correct.
And just shy of 90,000 with Red Lake?
Correct, yep.
Yeah, which is a massive landmass.
It is a big area, yes.
It's bigger than the Twin Cities Metro, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So back me up to the beginning. Obviously, if something of this nature is going to impact your district, typically someone's going to come to you and say, I'm planning on proposing this, and let me give you some background on it and want you to know about it. How did this first come on your radar?
I first saw this when the bill was introduced, and so no one did talk to me, and this is all my area. Both Red Lake and White Earth are in my district, and so this was out of the blue, just came out of left field, if you will, and Metro Senator brought this forward without saying anything to me or anybody else, really, and so that was the first we heard about it. It was pretty disturbing. And to this day, I still haven't really had a conversation with her on this issue.
The person that introduced the bill.
Right.
Which would be just kind of common courtesy in the Senate, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it would obviously be common courtesy, but why would you go into somebody else's district and do this? And so for us and for me, the land issue is one thing, and it's important to me. I think that we have a big issue with public land we could talk about another time. But the other is what Greg had talked about was the disputes and the division that it's caused within our area, division within families actually in this area. But I will tell you this, when the calls started coming in on this, the first calls that I got opposing it were from other tribal members like myself, and also the ones that were for it. I probably got maybe 50 calls, but I was well into the thousands on people opposing it. So it's not a popular issue in the area.
So you're talking about tribal members that don't necessarily support the leadership or whoever's trying to do why? What is their reasoning for saying they oppose it?
This the same as mine. We've got we're very diverse in White Earth. In fact, if you look at the statistically, by 2060 there will be no more full-blood members there. So there's a lot of families that are mixed race. And so if you're going to close these do this, and it does get closed off to non-tribal members, some families will be able to go on, other parts of their family will not. So it's a big issue, and it also there's some business owners that are concerned over the commerce part of it, if that happens as well.
The reason this didn't happen the last session was because there was Democratic pushback enough. I mean, you had Democratic control of the Senate,
right?
But they didn't have the numbers to get it through.
Correct.
How would that change in the upcoming session?
Well, we don't know. We don't know for sure if they're going to stick with us or not. A lot of it, I think, has to do with where the governor pushes them, where Lieutenant Governor pushes them, Peggy Flanagan. But we only had two Democrats that were willing to say, no, we won't vote for it. If that should change, because the Democrats have a one-vote majority, so we only need one, but it's always on edge. And the House, if the House does not flip to Republicans, then it could sail through the House pretty easily.
Kevin, did you say a question?
No, got a caller. Andy wanted to weigh in on this. He has land out in that area. Andy, go ahead. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Thanks for what you're doing on this topic. I guess my statement is really around the land that's around Minneapolis, St. Paul. That is also land of, let's just say, native land. And there's actually signs up, you walk around St. Paul at least, that say that. And if the city or the state senator from the cities really wants to do something, maybe she should donate her own land back to the native people down in the Minneapolis area, because obviously that area down there is worth much more to the natives. So she should do that. And thanks for what you're doing to stand up for this. It's wrong and horrible, and I'll hang up and listen to the great talk.
All right, Andy, appreciate your call and your comment, and point well taken on easy to give somebody else's land away in a different district, right, rather than the impacts down there. More with our guest after this on What's on Your Mind. What's on your mind coming to your live from Lakes Country, Minnesota today? Swanie's Pub on Middle Cormorant is great brunch for $15. Come enjoy that. There's folks from the Trump store here that are smiling and having a grand old time, and we're talking about issues important to Minnesotans as we bring the microphones to Lakes Country, Minnesota today. Brought to you in part by our friends at Sirocet. I want to tell you about seasonal affect disorder. This time of year, obviously, it is lighter, less of the day. Morning and evenings are dark, and that can mean in some folks a lack of energy. It can trigger depression. It can change your appetite, give you more fatigue. Maybe you have a sleep disorder as a result of that. Our friends at Sirocet want you to know that you don't have to let the extended darkness keep you from doing the things you love. Sirocet.com to find out more how they can help, or call them at 701-566-5231, 701-566-5231. Another listener texted in a note here and said on this issue, imagine how we felt when the exact same thing happened to our people in order for the white government to get the land by broken promises to our people, which probably prompts a discussion, Senator Green, about the land agreements that have been in place and how long they've been in place for, right? Because this issue has been dealt with.
Right. And I could go way back, but so I'll give you the 2-minute version of it because it gets complicated. And I would suggest that everybody go back and read the court cases, because a lot of this started back in the 30s, and then in 46 there was some settlements. Well, it got to be through the 70s when there was a lot of issues as well. But in 1985, White Earth Reservation, which actually made up half of the members in Minnesota, because White Earth was the biggest reservation, and they did a settlement, and the people actually weighed in on it. The members weighed in on that. And so in 1985, there was the White Earth Land Settlement Act, and they took care of all the clouded titles, the land that had been taken in nefarious means. And so there was over $20 million then that was paid out to the families of those members. And the people weighed in and said, we think that the money's going to do us better than trying to get the land back. So in that settlement, they with the federal government, that was the $20-some million went to the people. $6.5 million went for economic development on the reservation, plus 10,000 acres. And in that court case, then the language is they're barred now from going back to the federal government for more. That was the end. And the other 6 tribes did pretty much exactly the same thing in 97, 98 in that area. And there too, they took a vote. And it was a split vote, but the majority of the people said the money will do us better than trying to get the land back, and so they settled that. And they too are barred from going back to the federal government now for more to get more land back. So that's done. And but what's happening now is a little different, because now you've got them coming to the state and asking them to be granted land back that should have already been settled.
Or was already part of the settlement.
Right.
Right? Wow. Brian, question on this topic. Our guest, by the way, Senator Steve Green, District 2. He's up for re-election, so remember that. Oh, you're not up.
No, I've got to buy this year.
You got to buy, all right. And Jim Joy is up. We also talked earlier with Greg Scherzer. He's a Clearwater County Commissioner, so a couple of folks on the ballot when you come there in November to remember these folks. Let's see. Sorry, the question's from whom? Brian. Go ahead, Brian. You're up on What's on Your Mind.
Hi, Scott. Listen to your program real often. I think I have something pertinent and to offer. So I'm a 64-year-old farmer from western Minnesota. My uncle, the late Charlie Berg, was a senator from this area for 30 years. And in the mid-'80s, he was the senator that was put on the chairmanship of the gambling committee. And that was the time when they were deciding this issue. And the White Earth Band agreed to give up their claims for these lands. In part, they were given almost exclusive right to operate gambling casinos in our state. And so that was a big part of this deal. I remember Charlie showing up in our yard one day and telling Grandpa and Dad and I about it, that he was going to be put on the chairmanship of the gambling committee, and people more powerful in the state legislature than him had wanted him to give them the exclusive rights to operate gambling casinos. Now, he didn't give them exclusive rights all by himself, but he was a chairman of the gambling committee, and he allowed the legislations to pass through that that allowed those things to happen. So, like your former caller, I believe that they have benefited greatly from the monies that your former caller mentioned, and also the exclusive rights to run gambling casinos. So I think, in my personal opinion, this matter's already been solved. And if the tribes are putting pressure on our legislators to do another land grab, then I think they're going back on their word, basically. So, and I don't know that that's the case. So that's all I have for you, Scott.
Appreciate it, Brian. Thank you for the background on that. Anything you want to add on that?
No, I think he's right. But I want to make clear that as a member, I'm not against the tribal members. I'm just saying that what's happening right now is not a benefit to anyone, because right now anybody can use this land, and if this passes, now the current tribal council has said that they won't close it off, and that may be. I'm not going to question their word, but tribal councils change, just like legislators change, and so the White Earth Nation and all the reservations are not bound by state law. So whatever's in that law, once the land is theirs, any future tribal councils could close that off, and that's one of the issues. But as far as the gambling goes, I was never in favor of the gambling when it went through, and I was around back then. I remember even in our family we had discussions over should we try to keep the land or not, and we could go into that another time as well. But it was decided within our family, take the money. I will say that the gambling has done good for the tribe. I was skeptical of that because I'm constantly worried about families. That's my big issue, and I like to see strong families. But he's right. I mean, it was part of the economic development plan.
Is the push coming from the tribes outwardly?
Well, I will tell you this. I've only talked to the chairman of White Earth one time. I've only talked to representatives from Red Lake one time. It's the only time they come to see me. And that was long after this was already dying at the very end of session. So even as a member, they never came and approached me because I guess because they knew where I stood on it. So how much is coming from them? In the start, I don't know. I don't know if the senator from the metro area just decided on her own that she was going to go try to right what she thought was a wrong, or if they actually came to her. But after the bill went in, apparently, even though they never came to me, like I said, the tribes were down there putting pressure on the other legislators.
Well, I hope you have a change in the balance of power in the Senate so that things like this, and also I would add, what happened on the abortion bill and the trans stuff. I mean, a lot of us that are native Minnesotans weep openly about what's happening with that legislature.
It was a crazy 2 years. It was almost unbelievable to me. Like I said, I served in the House for 10 years. I've never seen anything like this in my 2 years in the Senate. What happened down there? It's no common sense at all, and to take away every single protection we had on abortions. And right now you can legally murder a baby in a barbaric manner right up till birth. And I know that on the national stage, our governor had stated that some of this stuff wasn't true, but he was wrong. He was absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
This is in the bills, and what they did is they made the language so broad that you can do anything, and they took away every protection. So he was not being truthful.
Keep fighting, Steve.
I will.
Senator Steve Green, District 2. More after this on What's on Your Mind, live from Swanie's Pub, Middle Cormorant Lake today for the Swanie Summit. Don't go away. Well, getting to be about lunchtime. PetroServe USA home cooking, grab-and-go convenience awaits. Let me tell you what you have waiting for you today. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City and Hewlin. Swedish meatballs, Harwood, West Main Avenue, West Fargo, and cheesy beef potatoes as well. Country Fried Steak at the 12th Avenue and I-29 location, NP Avenue. And Wahpeton, chicken pot pie in Glendon, chicken and gravy in Ada and on 45th Street today. So there you go. Home cooking, grab-and-go convenience, PetroServe USA. That's what we're waiting for you today. And if you come out and join us at Swanie's Pub today, by the way, we're going to be broadcasting throughout the day here today on Middle Cormorant. The brunch is being served. The folks from the Holiday Inn Detroit Lakes serving up a great brunch today. Made-to-order omelets. They got mini waffles and eggs and choice of bacon or sausage links, pancakes, biscuits and sausage gravy, you name it. Eggs and toast, whatever you want. They're going to take care of you right here. Today on the program. We're in Lakes Country, Minnesota today. Find out what folks are concerned about leading up to the election. Heard a lot about this land back proposal that is going to be front and center in the next session of the legislature. So learning a little bit about that and the impacts. We're going to talk with a couple of farmers from their perspective about this in just a moment as well. Daryl has a comment. And by the way, some folks in the Trump store stopping by to tell us about all the great things happening at the Lake Park Trump store right there on Highway 10. So lots to cover before we're done here today on the program. Daryl, what's on your mind?
Well, hello, good morning. I wanted to make a comment about Steve Green. I do not vote in this district, but I have a home on White Earth Lake, and we were having a difficult problem with the DNR. And like I said, we don't vote in this district. We vote in another district. But Steve Green actually came out to our property here on White Earth Lake and actually helped us get the problem solved with the DNR. I have a lot of respect for Steve Green. He actually cares. He actually does his research. And if I could vote in this district, I would vote for Steve Green.
That's great. He's not up on this ballot, but obviously a longer term with the Senate, but spent, I think, 10 years in the House. And then went over to the Senate side, and you know what? Minnesota needs more than anything. Folks like citizen legislators like Steve Green, like Jim Joy, these others that are willing to go in there and fight. And that's, I mean, the contagion of the Twin Cities has overtaken too much, and it's one of the reasons we're having the conversation we are today. Appreciate that call. Thank you for that, and I'll pass on the good words to Steve, who's still here with us at Swanie's. Our next guests are farmers. Dave Vipond is here, and Dwayne Erickson. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Fun day at Swanie's today. Dave, isn't it? A lot of good folks are having a good time.
Great atmosphere here. Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's fun to be out here and have a little Swanie summit and find out what concerns folks. How'd your year go on the farm?
Well, it started out what we thought a little on the wet side, a little late, but it turned out to be a very good year. So very, very blessed to have the harvest we had. One of the better harvests we've had.
Is that right? Well, that's great to hear. Tell us a little bit about your operation.
So I farm on the edge of the reservation, right on the Norman and Monoman County line with my two sons, Mike and Aaron, and our wife's a big part. My wife Pam's a big part of that too. But we farm corn and edible beans.
All right. And Dwayne, how about you?
I live within 5 miles of the reservation and own land on the reservation. And I, like Dave, agree. It's been a beautiful harvest. It's just day after day. Probably my first year, and I'm in my 60th crop year.
Wow.
But I mean, as the first year we combined my corn, I don't have much compared to my sons, but it was dry, and we put it right in a bin without drying it. And we farm, and my two sons and we farm independently, meaning with the edible beans, soybeans, wheat. We tried canola this year, corn, trying to get some diversification in rotation. I'm the luckiest guy in the whole world.
Well, it sounds like you both had a heck of a lucky year, so that's awesome. The good Lord bless you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's talk about this issue that we've been talking about a little bit. Dave, you've been very active on this. What, from an agriculture perspective, what's your biggest concern here?
Well, I'm retirement age, so I don't need to keep going on down the road. But when so we applied for. We farm along the Wild Rice River, and we don't need irrigation all the time. But we thought, well, it'd be nice to maybe irrigate our ground in some drier years like last year. So we, a year and a half ago or so, we applied for a permit from Minnesota DNR to pump some water out of the river. And anybody that farms along a river has riparian rights to that water in the state of Minnesota. So, we knew that, and we've got one other irrigation system out of a small creek. But anyway, so we applied for this permit out of the to the DNR, and the DNR was dragging their feet on not issuing the permit. We'd met all the criteria, we knew that. And then, so when I started pushing the DNR and why they hadn't issued us our permit, they said, well, we haven't heard back from the tribe. Well, okay. So I know I'm on the reservation, but it's privately owned land. It's an open reservation. I said that the tribe has never had any say or control over my farm before. Why does it matter now? And they said, well, we just need to hear from the tribe. Anyway, so finally when we pushed them, and I asked the commissioner of the DNR, I said, have you ceded your rights to the water rights in Minnesota and the river to the tribe? Did they make those decisions? And they said, no, they don't make them. And I said, well, then I should have my permit. And he said, okay, you'll have your permit. So finally they did issue me a permit to pump water and irrigate part of our farm out of the river. And a few days after that, the tribe drove in my yard and summoned me to court saying I needed a permit from the tribe to irrigate. And I said, I have a state permit. I'm not a tribal member. Why do I need something from the tribe? Well, you're on the reservation. You need a tribal permit. So I said, I don't think I do. But so it's been a long story since then, Scott. So it's been over a year, and we've been fighting this case in court, and it just goes on and on and on and gets more and more expensive. But we still, and my attorneys feel that we aren't subject to tribal law because we can't vote. We're not tribal members. And it's private land. And so we're trying to sort it out right now in court.
But that came out of nowhere. It hadn't been an issue before, and all of a sudden it's...
Yeah, came out of absolutely nowhere. So it's part of this whole land back movement, in our opinion, that the tribe has gotten more and more bold, and they're trying to squeeze... I think the ultimate, and they've made the statement in several different public meetings, that they want to regulate agriculture off the reservation. And they can lower land values if we can't operate our farms the way we need to and be competitive in the agricultural industry. Our land values are going to go down, and they're trying to get all the land back that they can that was formerly reservation. So I think that's their ultimate motive. They've also formed they passed an environmental code. They've got an agreement. Here's some interesting facts when you start digging into this. They've got an environmental code, and they want to regulate all the pesticides on the reservation too. And they've got an agreement with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, and they say that's what gives them the right to regulate pesticides on the reservation, even on my private land. And I said, can I see a copy of that? Well, I checked with the EPA. The EPA won't give it to me. I checked with the tribe won't give it to me. So now they're saying I'm subject to these laws or these rules, but nobody will show me the laws or the rules.
My goodness. Start wondering if you're living in the United States of America, for crying out loud.
I am wondering that.
Dwayne, what's your experience been?
Well, I think regulations are a little bit too strong. I agree with what Dave is trying to do with his irrigation. We don't do any irrigation, but we do tiling projects, and I feel that's getting to be more and more restrictive too. There's nothing wrong with respecting your neighbors downstream, but some of this permitting in the agencies you need to go through get to make it much more difficult and much more expensive.
What's the motive behind this?
I think I think the motive is that and I don't, Scott, I don't mean this to be. I mean, we have a lot of friends that are enrolled members of the tribe. I mean, we have a lot of that are part Indian. I mean, a lot of good friends. So it isn't those people that are causing the problems. It's the tribal. There's 5 people on the tribal council. They get to make all the rules. So once they're elected, they don't have to run this by or get a vote from the people. Most of the people that are tribal members on the White Reservation don't know anything about this. and most of them aren't in favor of this. But you do have that handful that are in power.
I mean, is it an environmental thing? Is it a bleeding heart?
They claim it's environmental, but they don't have any. They don't have the staff or the people in place to even know if it's environmental or not. So they rely on the Minnesota DNR to do all of their research, and the Minnesota DNR does a great job of doing their due diligence before they issue me a water permit. You know, if the water flows are down too low, I have to stop pumping. I know that the Minnesota DNR has researched that. They've built it into the permit, and the tribe thinks that they are better at controlling that stuff, but they don't have the people in place to even do that.
If they did get the land back, how would it impact you, Dwayne?
I don't know how I'd be compensated for land that I've owned for 40 years on the reservation. As I grew up, I thought the government would always bail you out, meaning give you a fair price. I don't think that's the case anymore. Land could go lower. And we live we live amongst tribal members, good friends. I've got an aunt that's a Native American, 50 years. I mean, like Dave said, those local they're good people. They're fun to, just good neighbors.
Yeah.
I got
a whole lot of division that people aren't baking into the cake either.
Yeah.
Sad story.
And I think a lot of the local tribal members, we've got 2 county commissioners that are tribal members, and they will say this is the most divisive, and they're saying the actions of the tribal council are the most divisive actions that they've seen in their careers, and they say that it's bad. It's bad for Monoman County. It's bad for anybody on the reservation, and that's bad for the tribal members.
Only a few seconds left. What do you want people? How can they help? What do you want them to know?
So if you want more information, we did set up an organization called H2 Land Stewards. It's h2land.org. And there's information on there. We do post updates on there, what's going on. Our tribal court case is coming up. We're actually got a hearing in district court tomorrow morning. So we're moving ahead, and we're trying to protect our rights.
Dwayne, anything?
I think we're doing this as farmers. At least I didn't do this to make money when I started. I wanted to farm, and we take good care of the land, and we want it sustainable for the next generation and the next generation. We want to produce the food.
Yeah, good for you.
Let us go to work.
Good for you. And the idea of taking agriculture off the reservation, crazy.
And Dave mentioned he has to shut his pumps off when the water gets too low. On our irrigation, on our tile drainage, we have to shut them off when the water gets too high.
You guys work that out. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Brought to you in part today by our friends at MyPillow. And guess what they just announced? The 10-year warranty. That's right. They are extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. So they've had this 10-year warranty forever. Every MyPillow product comes with a 10-year warranty. You literally are guaranteed you're going to have satisfaction for that product for 10 years. Think about that.
It turned to mush by the time you know.
And if 9 years in, you're like, I want a new pillow, you get a new pillow. But they also have this 60-day money-back guarantee, which says if you're not satisfied, if you sleep on that pillow 59 nights, you say it just isn't doing it for me, they'll give you your money back. And what they just announced is that orders placed between now and the end of the Christmas season will have the 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 2025. So what I think that does is speak volumes as to how they back their products up. And reason number 9 zillion to get to MyPillow.com today. MyPillow.com, promo code Scott. We're at Swanie's Pub on Middle Cormorant Lake today, having a grand time at the Swanie Summit. Learned all kinds of things today, talking to folks in Minnesota Lakes Country about what concerns them, and get a chance to meet a couple of the candidates as well. Appreciated that. One from Clearwater County on the county commission battled up there, as well as Jim Joy, who's running for Minnesota 4B. Good to meet him as well. And the brunch is still being served here, by the way. They have made-to-order omelets and mini waffles and pancakes and biscuits and gravy.
What
and
time
eggs
are they
and toast.
going to, Scott? That was a question. What time are they serving breakfast till? Do we know?
Somebody find that out for me. This is brunch, so we're going through lunch for sure.
Okay.
Just find out, if you would, how long they're serving the brunch up for me, Michael. I'll let you know before we're done. But
oh, man.
It's, good stuff. Anyway, before we're out of here today, I want to tell you about a great story, and that is the Trump Store in Lake Park, Minnesota. The Lakes Area Patriots run that. Wally Mueller is here. Hey, Wally, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Scott.
And Carol Erickson. Hi, Carol.
Hi.
So tell us about the Trump Store, Wally. What you got?
We got everything. We got stand-up Trumps. We've got bobbleheads. We've got Christmas ornaments. I think we got about 700 T-shirts in there now. Magnets, put on your car. We've got bumper stickers. Got just about everything imaginable that you get for Trump.
We've had a lot of calls about the lawn signs. Have you got lawn signs still?
We got signs, yeah. In fact, I think there's probably 100 more sitting on my doorstep as we speak that we'll bring down there today. We've got a couple hundred yard signs in there yet.
What's the typical day like at the Trump Store, Carol? What kind of atmosphere?
It's joyful. It's joyful. And, people are needing hope. When they come in there, they share, and we encourage. And we hand out brochures, flyers, things that'll help them with this fight that we're in. And they're from all over. And I'm very grateful for all those that have come in and supported the store. I really am. That's heartfelt and greatly appreciated.
It is amazing. Whether it's a Trump rally or a Trump store or whatever, the people you interact with are just the best of America, aren't they?
They are. And some of the people, especially when they were in their summer travels, when they saw there was a Trump store in Little Lake Park, they made a U-turn and pulled in there. That was really cool, and
I love it.
And from states all over that I've never even visited yet. and not to mention countries like Germany and Italy, and I had a gal in there on her way back to Israel.
Amazing.
And it brought me to tears.
Sure.
A lot of Canadians.
Yes.
From every state in the country. What's nice about the location where it's at is you can make a U-turn and just about anywhere there and make it back to the store.
Yeah, it's on the south side of Highway 10 at Lake Park. There, you see the Trump flag. Not hard to see at all. And I think one of the neat things about this is that this is an enterprise that supports Republican and conservative causes in Minnesota, right?
Well, let me tell you about that. Broadway Welding owns the building. They own the old furniture store next door. And when I went to talk to them about renting the store, they said, well, being it's going to be a Trump store, there will be no rent. So we get the place for nothing. We pay a little utilities. Which is great Trumpsters.
That's awesome.
That's Don and Tanya Smith from Broadway Welding.
And the profits you're generating go back into these Republican causes, right?
What stays in the county. Profits stay in the county to elect conservatives all the way from school boards on up to county commissioners. Right now we're doing a lot of radio ads. You've heard about radio ads, right, Scott?
I have.
Yeah, great.
Exactly right. Bringing people in. So it's a great cause and run by volunteers?
All volunteers. We got 2 shifts a day, 11 to 3 and 3 to 7, and we have no trouble filling those shifts.
That's awesome. Carol, anything else you want to tell us?
I just am very appreciative for the North Dakotans, for the Canadians, for those that are supporting this cause. We greatly appreciate it.
Awesome. Anything else, Wally?
Just come on and spend some money. If you buy a regular Trump yard sign, we've got a free one to go along with it. We are Lakes Area Patriots is an offshoot of the Becker County Republicans. Becker County Republicans couldn't support local candidates, so we started Lakes Area Patriots. So we support the local candidates.
Yeah, it's important. Glad you're doing that down ballot. We want to know who the Patriots are in that ballot for school board, for city council, for county commission, for everything.
Let me mention Lake Park School Board. We got 2 open seats there, so we got a write-in vote.
Who's the Patriots?
Jade Carlson is running for 1 seat, and Jennifer Hostrup.
All right, there you go, folks.
Other seat.
Thank you both. Appreciate you. Brunch going to 11:30. Come on out to Swanie's for the big summit, folks. God bless. location, pulled pork sandwiches, downtown Fargo. Make today the day you say enough of the same old for lunch. I'm heading to the Valley City Petroserve USA for mac and beef. You'll love it. Scalloped potatoes and ham. If you're traveling 29 Harwood, 12th and I-29 Salisbury steak. Time for some home cooking. Lunch today. Petroserve USA Country Fried Steak, Wahpeton and 12th and I-20. How does Country Fried Steak sound for lunch today? Find it at the Fargo 12th and I-29 location, downtown Fargo location, and in Wahpeton today. A Petroserve USA, the place for home cooking, grab-and-go convenience. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City, Swedish meatballs in Harwood City or Euland today. How does Country Fried Steak sound for lunch today? Find it at the Fargo 12th and I-29 location, downtown Fargo location, and in Wahpeton today. A Petroserve USA, the place for home cooking, grab-and-go convenience. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City. A Petroserve USA, the place for Petroserve USA, the place for home cooking, grab-and-go convenience. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City, Swedish meatballs. Convenience. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City, Swedish meatballs in Harwood. West Main Avenue, West Fargo has that too, along with cheesy beef potatoes. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City or Euland today. It's Sloppy Joe's in Valley City, Swedish meatballs in Harwood. West Main Avenue, West Fargo has that too, along with cheesy beef potatoes. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City or Euland today. Chicken pot pie in Glendon. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City, Swedish. Sloppy Joe's in Valley City or Euland today. It's Sloppy Joe's in Valley City, Swedish meatballs. It's Sloppy Joe's in Valley City, Swedish meatballs in Harwood. West Main Avenue, West Fargo has that too, along with cheesy beef potatoes. Chicken pot pie in Glendon. Chicken pot pie in Glendon. Grab some home cooking for lunch today.